Today we have none other than David Kennedy from the Chariot. David, I was just telling you this a second ago, but the Chariot is my favorite band of all time. It's a running gag on this podcast where pretty much at least every other episode I bring up the Chariot for some stupid reason, just because I am truly, arguably a top fan. Like I'm sure there are, you literally had fans that were they were song title names. I don't know if I'm quite to that level, but I'm like, if I'm not, then I'm like a tier below that in terms of fandom of the Chariot. But certainly my favorite band of all time. Cullen, probably top 3 favorite bands for you individually,
easily.
Right?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. So anyway, huge fans of the Chariot, David. So it really, truly is an honor that you'd be even willing to chat with us about your experience in the Chariot and all of that. But obviously, we'll want to talk all about the Chariot. But before we get into that, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. It's dark out. I had to turn all the lights on, so it's not.
Oh yeah.
Not great lighting for a podcast, but we'll make do.
I
you
have
were
to
just
start off
traveling
with this.
recently, right?
That's correct. I just came back from the Philippines, actually.
Nice.
I've got family in the Philippines, so that's why I was there.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Love it.
I have to start off by saying that usually Mason is the one with the best head of hair on this podcast.
Oh,
Today, it is 100% you.
we should have done.
We
should have done this podcast a few years ago because I had hair about as long as Mason.
Really?
Yeah.
You went.
We'll go back and actually, wink, wink. There's my wink, wink. I had hair as long as you.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you ever put it were you kind of a bun person? I typically have it in a bun, but I washed my hair today, and if I put it in a bun right away, it just doesn't dry fast enough. So I just have it down all day when I wash it.
I usually wore a hat just like you. Yeah.
See, we are the same person at the end of the day, David.
There we go.
It's true.
Cullen, I feel like whenever we talk about, or whenever we talk to somebody from this kind of latter part of the iteration of the Chariot, we at least got to bring up the first time we ever saw the Chariot, right?
Sure. Yeah. I think you should tell
Okay,
the
so
story,
David,
Mason.
you may or may not remember this. Okay. So Cullen and I are from the middle of nowhere in South Dakota. And there was a tour, probably maybe 2011. I think it was technically the Scream of the Prayer tour.
Yeah.
And there was a time where you guys were maybe playing a show or two in Canada, and then I think maybe you had a day off, and then you were going to play in Minneapolis or something. And so you're going, coming back through from Canada, going towards Minneapolis or whatever, and you had an off day, and you guys decided to play a show in North Dakota, which is about 2 hours from where Cullen and I grew up. And so knowing that we're from the middle of nowhere in South Dakota and you guys never play in that area ever, we were like, we have to take work off. We have to figure this out. We will drop everything to at least see you guys play once. And so Cullen and I went up to North Dakota, and when it was announced, it was you were going to play at this radio station or whatever.
That's right.
It was going to be packed.
I knew it. The radio station.
It was going to be capped at 50 people or something. And so Cullen and I, not knowing the level of interest in this show, we were we got to get there as soon as possible because you never know. You don't want to get capped out or whatever. So we get there, and the show's going to start at 8, 9 o'clock at night. Cullen and I get there at probably 1 o'clock. We just got some Jimmy John's, and we just sat at the foot of the stairs at this radio station just waiting. And the radio station people come out, and they're like, what the hell are you guys doing here? And we're like, we're just waiting for the show. And they just start laughing because they were they knew that nobody's going to show up until right before the show. And so we're wow, we traveled all the way from South Dakota. We had no idea what the level of interest would be. So they're fascinated by this. So they bring us in, they want to interview us, and then maybe 30 minutes later, you guys come in. So Josh and Wolf and all of you come in, and eventually you're hey, we got to get our gear up here. So we help you bring up the gear up these flight of stairs.
The most stairs.
And I remember I think the day before or 2 days before, you guys got your van broken in. So the van window was broken. And so I think it was Josh or somebody asked can you actually park your car literally like inches away from our car, so like nobody like just dives into the broken window. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I parked my car like literally right next to you guys' van. And so anyway, like that all happened, and then we helped load you guys in, and then there was like a few hours before you guys had to get back to the venue, so you guys like just went downtown Fargo to just check out whatever shops were open or whatever. And I still remember Cullen and I, we went around kind of trying to like sort of like not trying to fangirl, but also it's like you guys like invited us to hang out with you all, and so we're like trying to not fangirl but also like not just abandon you all either. So anyway, we're kind of in that like weird little in between state. And anyway, we like went to a few shops, and then Cullen and I eventually were like, I don't like know if they like hanging out with us or whatever. So we like went off, kind of did our thing for a second, and then we ran back into you guys. And I still remember, I don't know if it was Stevis or you or whoever it was, but one of you was like, why'd you guys like leave? And we were like, oh, like we didn't want to be like too overbearing or whatever. And you guys were like, no, like just hang out with us, like just be cool.
Yeah, come
So
on,
anyway.
we're just dudes too. No,
Yeah,
I
just
totally
dudes.
remember that show.
That
Yes.
and I the band that opened was Tiny Moving Parts, which they've kind of become a whole thing, and it was probably one of their first like live gigs, at least as like with recorded music at that point.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was the first time we saw you guys. We did see you all on your farewell tour like a year or so later after that. And but that was the first time we ever saw you. So we have technically hung out before, but I'm sure you don't quite remember any of that.
No, I remember it pretty vividly too. I was pissed because I just got all my stuff
Because you were
stolen.
hanging out with us?
No. I probably had a bad attitude, and I apologize, but I just got all my stuff stolen. Sleeping Giant was for sure on that
The
tour.
ones who stole all your stuff. Is that who it was?
Definitely not. They were there to support me and help find the stuff. I remember they were walking around the venue in Canada. You were exactly right. It happened in Canada. And they broke our van window and grabbed Brandon's backpack and my backpack, which had our computers in it our entire lives,
no.
right? And I can't remember who it was from Sleeping Giant, but they were right behind me realizing what happened at the same time. And they grabbed a crowbar that was like lying on the ground, and they went into beast mode, just pacing around the parking lot trying to find the dude who did it.
Whoa.
But then they ended up telling like everyone on the tour for the rest of the tour, hey, if you could donate to, fund the Chariots, everything they lost in the break-in. And I got a few $100 out of that. Thank you guys. Anyone who donated to that.
Wow.
I really appreciate it. I got a new computer out of it, but
There you go.
yeah.
Could you
Yeah, I was
imagine,
bummed.
though?
I was bummed
you-
after that show.
Oh, I can imagine so. Could you imagine if he did find somebody in the parking lot? who
I'm so
had
glad
your
he
bags?
didn't. We were talking about that. Stevis and I were talking about that, and we were like, we don't want these Sleeping Giant dudes to find the guy who did it, because we don't want to
Somebody
see what
would be
hap-
screaming a prayer.
Exactly.
It wouldn't, but somebody
Good one.
would be screaming a
one.
prayer.
I just I would love to see the headlines the next day. It would be like Christian metal band guitarist murders man in parking lot. Over
And then we
a
would be
stolen
shocked
computer.
that it actually wasn't As I Lay Dying.
Wait a second. I see what you did there. Oh boy. Let's not go down that road.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was a good one, Mace.
We don't want to incriminate you. But anyway, that was a great show. I mean, it was really cool for just the fact that it's like this small little venue. Yeah, and there was maybe 50 people there, and I think there's maybe some like, YouTube videos of it. But it was like really cool and I know like especially now like doing this podcast for a while, meeting lots of people that I've listened to their music for almost my entire life. And now meeting even some folks from the Chariot, like I know you guys don't think of yourselves in this way, but like when I was 16 years old and meeting you all for the first time, like you truly were the like heroes of my life. In the same way that people like Swifties think of Taylor Swift, you guys were my Swiftie. Like you guys were my Taylor Swift. Like I was your Swiftie, and so it was like the coolest thing at 16 years old for me to like simply be able to like hang out with you in downtown Fargo. Like I still think about that memory all the time because I'm like, and again, I know you guys like don't think of yourselves in that way at all. Like you I'm sure you don't think of yourself as like the Taylor Swift to a bunch of people, but it truly was that for me, and I thought that was really awesome.
One more thing I have to add to that whole scenario, and I've been waiting to say it when we got you on, David. There was one moment where we were talking about what songs you liked to play live and all that stuff, and I don't remember if it was you or someone else that said The Dead Policeman. And so somebody was like, well, yeah, we've never played it in this setting or whatever with me or something like that. And then Mason chimes up and goes, like Rain Man, like out of nowhere goes, actually, on this YouTube video, it says that you are playing it right here. And then like you can like see, I don't remember if it was like Stevis or whoever, but it like showed it. And then immediately from that moment on, you gave like kind of like a weird eye to Mason. And you're like, okay, you know a little too much. And that was where I was like, all right, let's go hang out somewhere else. Cause
You called me out, yeah.
We just totally weirded him out.
Yeah, like I fact checked the actual band.
Exactly.
That's not what you want to do as a fan.
I am way more open to being fact checked now. So you can do a lot of fact checking on me during this podcast. Please do.
I definitely have calmed down way more since then.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that was a song on The Fiancé, right?
Yeah,
Which was
right.
the album right before me. So I was probably a little like intimidated knowing that a lot of people coming to our shows were huge Fiancé fans. You know, I had a lot to prove when I first got into the Chariot. So, you know, with both stage presence, songwriting, I mean, we hit the ground running, writing Wars and Rumors of Wars when I first joined the band.
Right.
Yeah.
I had barely played a show with the Chariot.
Before you're
Isn't that
before you're
wild?
recording. Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
that is something that we talk about with the Chariot members, or anyone who's in a Skagen-based band. It seems like the strangest entrances into the band. I mean, every single member that we've talked to has had a goofy ass entrance into the band. What
weirdest
is
story.
your goofy entrance?
Well, actually,
into
before we
the
even get
Chariot?
into that, I just love to hear like your journey with music before you got
Yeah,
into
let's
the
ask
Chariot.
that first.
But
That's
I
good.
do want to hear that story because it does seem like every Chariot band member has a weird story about how they got into the Chariot. But how did you like even get involved in music to begin with?
Great question. One word, Zayo.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
in
can't
middle
imagine
school.
any other words that are needed.
Yeah, Zayo. My best friend showed me the band Zayo, and I think we were actually at our like youth center, like the middle school youth center at our church, getting ready to practice for the worship set, and it was like the midweek rehearsal, you know, as they call it, and we were just upstairs in like the hangar. I think that's what we called it, the hangar. It's all coming back to me, and we were just waiting for the leader to get there, the band leader to get there, and my friend, his name was Capel, and he was like, hey, let me show you this band, and he just blasted Zayo all throughout the room at church, so it was perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah. Did he freak some people out?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. That's the way it should be.
Definitely, but somehow I fell in love with it. I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had an
Had you been like
positive
into any
reaction.
sort of heavy music prior to that?
No. Barely heard any kind of screaming music at that point.
So why do you think it didn't turn you off? Because most people, it seems like it does turn them off. And then there's some of us that have like a morbid curiosity where we're like, I kind of like the guttural, almost, Cro-Magnon man kind of vibe
Yeah.
to it, you know?
I don't know. Maybe I was just predestined to love Zayo. Who knows? But
Probably. Yeah, you're a
but yeah.
Calvinist?
yeah. Oh well, let's not get into that. But definitely. Or we can get into it. How do you want this podcast to go?
We can go multiple
You know,
directions here.
all 2 people that are going to listen to it, it's going to turn out regardless. So,
Well, I'm not going to
one might
listen
say
to it
it's-
because I hate hearing my voice recorded. So I'm sorry, guys. This is
all
the
good.
first and last time I will listen to it.
that's fair.
No
You can
offense.
listen to the other episodes though.
I will. Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of which, have you ever sang on a record?
I've done some screaming vocals on like the Chariot record and some bands I grew up playing in. Yeah.
What songs from the Chariot did you have like background stuff for?
Or were you foreground?
Can we come back to that?
Yeah, sure.
I don't remember.
I was waiting for Mason to already fact check you, but
Yeah.
apparently he doesn't know that.
I probably even know like the working titles for some of these too. So,
Yeah.
Because I know you all were just like working on working titles all the time.
Yeah.
I think it was on One Wing. I think I did a song on One Wing.
Okay.
Okay.
It's weird how I'm going to remember this because I think it's the song that's before the Oh Busy Busy Bee song.
Okay.
Okay, so that would have been like the second song in the album, I think.
Yeah.
Not
That might have
I
been.
think
I thought
yeah.
that was Brian.
he does.
I thought
yes.
I thought it was too.
Shit, I got off track here. You were asking me about my introduction into
but
music.
Yeah,
and...
but this is a podcast of tangents. So
yeah, of course.
this is
We're
totally
not
fine.
focused at all.
Yeah.
Was it the song Your?
No, that's the Busy Busy
Okay,
Bee one.
so then it's
it,
not.
it would have to be it would have to be not.
Yeah. It's
Forget not.
That's what I said,
But
right?
not is the one at
Yeah.
at the end of not is when Brian is screaming.
I might have a backup vocal on that one.
Okay.
We'll have to go back and
Interesting.
listen.
I have to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and listen because I'm trying to. I know like Brian was singing at the end, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Yeah,
think
he came
what
back
else
and
I
sang
could
on
heard.
that record.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
first time I'd really have truly heard his scream, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, why?
No,
is
he
this guy
did.
not doing it?
He
He
did on
screamed
what-
on
on-
Daggers.
Yes.
The
I was gonna
first
say.
song.
Oh, that was his.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that. Okay.
We'll get
He
into.
also-
I'm sure we'll get into the records.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure. So
Yeah, but so you heard Zayo.
Heard Zayo.
And then that just like you were like, I got to do whatever that is.
No more waves of mercy, waves of grace. I had to play double bass. That shamelessly rhymed. But yeah, I had to get a double bass at that point.
I get that.
Yeah. And I
don't blame you.
Yeah. Yeah, so it started with Zayo. I got into heavy music. Obviously, I was playing drums at that point on the worship band. But then in high school, I started a band called Falling Into Forever, which I don't think there's any record of that anywhere. Hopefully not.
let's put it out to the listeners or to the Chariot Facebook group. If you have anything, please let us know.
Yep. And then, so I refer to Brian as Rusty. So if you hear me say Rusty, that's Brian Taylor. I've called him that for the last 20 years. But believe it or not, we've been playing music together for 20 years. And we started a band called The Rain, REIN, in high school. And we would play a venue called the 7 Venue in Douglasville.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah,
Douglasville is where
legendary
Norma
place,
Jean and the Chariot are from,
yeah.
obviously. Well, the owner of the venue, the guy who ran the venue and owned the venue, he is Josh's father-in-law. So get this, imagine this. You're a local band playing the 7 Venue. You know Josh's father-in-law runs the venue. What are you expecting? What are you hoping for every single time you play that venue? That Josh shows up.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
he never did. I mean, the Chariot played a couple times when my band, The Rain, was still around. And we would go to the 7 Venue and watch them. We'd typically see them at the Masquerade, of course, in Atlanta. But every once in a while they'd play. That was the true hometown venue for the Chariot.
Right,
So,
totally.
so anyways, we got to know, we played that, I don't know, I'm sure y'all have been in local bands and you play the same local venue all the time, but that was just a thing in the scene. So we would play the 7 Venue as frequently as we could. So we got to know, I mean, that's where I met Stevis. That's where I met a lot of the guys who ran the 7 venue. And at one point, it was after the Fiancé, because all the guys who were on the Fiancé left the band abruptly, and then Josh sort of went on a short hiatus, like a year or a year and a half. And if you Mason, I'm sure you know all the timelines, but there was a stint where after the Fiancé where he didn't tour, there were no shows set up. So I honestly kind of forgot about the Chariot during that time. And then all of a sudden, this guy from the 7 venue hits me up and says, hey, Josh is interested in basically scouting out some new members. And I told him about you guys because you guys remind us. I mean, we were obviously highly influenced. I was a huge fan of the Chariot growing up.
Totally.
So I guess he thought our music maybe was the most reminiscent of the Chariot out of all the bands that came through that venue. So there was this rumor going on this show we were playing. It was a YMCA in Alpharetta, Georgia. And all our friends came out to it, and they were all whispering, is Josh Scoggin going to show up at this show? And I was like, I highly doubt it. Well, long story short, he shows up for our set, and, he's all cool with his leather jacket, just leaned up against the wall, the back wall on the side, and we see him there, and we're completely nervous playing that set. But he apparently liked it. And Brian's in the band, so he ended up grabbing us right after our set. That might have actually been our last show too. I can't remember the timeline exactly, but I think we were about to retire the band. And so it was a perfect segue into our next phase of music or not music. I was going to college. Or I was in college at that point, and Brian was about to go to college. So we had commitments, and Josh takes us to a Waffle House down the street,
Of course.
and we sit there, and he throws on like Bob Dylan, on the playlist, and all cool like, and we're just sitting there chatting about life and music, and he's like, hey, Again, I guess he was impressed with the show, and he was like, I would love to go on tour with you guys like tomorrow, basically, is what he was saying. Not tomorrow, but like you guys are in the band if you want.
Yeah.
And I was obviously in my head thinking about, well, what are all the things I got to give up to like actually be in a big band? I was just a nobody kid, private school kid from Johns Creek, Georgia. I had no business getting this job offer from Josh Scoggin, Idol at the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So long story short, Brian said yes before me because I was like, I got to think about this. I got to talk to my parents. My parents are not going to like this. And he said yes. That obviously encouraged me to say, I've got to do this. One of my best friends, a guy I've been playing music with for years, is saying yes to this. This is the perfect opportunity.
Right.
So I ended up telling my parents, dropping out of college. And
how did they take that?
Not well.
Yeah.
Not well at all.
Oh, I bet.
My mom took it a little better than my dad. She wanted to be a missionary growing up. She never got the opportunity to do that. Went straight to her career. And, so she understood like following your path. My dad understands that too, but he just can't, in his brain, it's black and white. You got to go to school. You got to finish school. So his first words were, well, can you finish school and then go on tour? And in my head, I was like, nope, this is the last opportunity I'm going to get.
Right.
To literally change my life. Mm-hmm. So I took it. And
did you eventually finish school?
I did. So not to be a downer, just to finish my thought with Cullen, my dad and I didn't speak for 3 years after that.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
We amended the relationship, but yeah, we didn't speak for 3 years. So I carried that weight with me for a lot of my time with the Chariot. But
That's
for
heavy,
me,
man.
Well, if it's any consolation, I really like the Chariot.
thank you. I do too. This is, I'm going to say this and feel very embarrassed. So, forgive me, but I think the Chariot's the greatest band in the world. And I probably should have started with that, because when you guys hit me up, I was like, man, I haven't opened this metaphorical box of the Chariot in so long. It's been, 12 years?
Too long.
And even longer since I've done really any music stuff.
Yeah.
So for y'all to, it's hard for me to bring Chariot stuff back up, but because I loved it so much, and I don't feel like I deserved it. But I think Chariot's the greatest band in the world, and the Swifties of the world will never understand it, though.
True.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's
kinda like
something,
it that way.
yeah. I mean, there's something about creating chaos on a record and being able to portray that on stage live. Like to really experience the Chariot, you got to be up front, right?
Yep.
Feeling what we're feeling, the sweat and snot and spit hitting your face, and seeing Josh's lungs literally burst out of his chest. Like, you got to experience it that way. And I think there are tons of bands out there that tried to do what we did, and they couldn't get that sort of third heat, so to speak. You could, maybe they understood the passion of the show, right? There's a lot of bands out there that are really good stage performers. I'll give them credit for that. But their songs are a little lackluster. They didn't have that X factor that I think Josh's writing and all of our writing brought to the table. And then, you got some bands who write songs that are beautiful and much better than the songwriting I've ever done or been a part of, but they can't do the stage presence thing. You merge those two things together and then add in the crowd reacting to all that. I've never been a part of anything like it since then or before.
I don't think you could have nailed that more on the head. Mason and I both agree that probably the most spiritual moment of our entire lives was at a Chariot show. I mean, it was during the farewell tour in Minneapolis. We, from the very first note of the very first song of the last set that you guys were going to do, Mason and I were plunged onto the stage, and I was just hanging on for dear life onto your crash stand, and I had this like weird epiphanal moment where I was like, this is something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life, and it means something in like my soul, and it means something to everybody here. I mean, because we're all here in this moment, all sharing in this wonderful songwriting and this wonderful energy and this wonderful, punk rock attitude. It transcended reality for me, and I know Mason feels the same way. And I don't think that I don't think I've still quite got to like the heart of how that made me feel.
Yeah, I think that like punk ethos that I think the Chariot most perfectly embodied that I've ever witnessed in any other band is like, for me, it transcended just the music itself, right? We're for that moment, like we're all stuck on the stage because there's literally no wave back. So we're all stuck on the stage and we're all just a part of this moment. And when I think back to a moment like that, I'm like, whatever it is that I do in the world, I want to create that kind of, I want to create that kind of environment for other people. So whether it's like at church, or whether that's in my neighborhood, or whether that's in any one of my relationships, I want to create this kind of environment where we all are participating in this together. We're all invested in this together. And there's not one of us that's better or has more authority than the other. We are just all a part of this together. And yeah, so whether that's at church, in my neighborhood, wherever that is, like I want to create that kind of environment, because whatever I experienced in that moment felt transcendent to how we should just be living our lives. Like, it wasn't just for music. It was just like, this is how life should be, at least in my opinion. So that's like the kind of impact the Chariot has had on me.
Yeah. And it's cool that you feel that same way from the way you described it there. I mean, it's
it sounds so pretentious, though, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
But like, it truly is like, this is a really important band for a lot of people because of, I think, largely because of that. Whether they can articulate it that way or not, but still, like, I think it's a huge, important part of our lives.
It's bordering on a cult, you know.
Well, I was proud. I'm so proud of the band. I mean, Josh said it the first day he asked me to join the band. He said, "This is a one-time opportunity for all of us." And frankly, I write music that I love to listen to, and I want you to be a part of that. So, I can stand up proud and say I am proud to be in the Chariot. And yes, it was it. I feel like I was in the greatest band in the world.
Yeah.
And it's hard to articulate sometimes or say that in front of people, but like I said, I need the reminder of it every 10 years or whatever it is, because it really does fill my soul, fill my heart up. So I appreciate you guys, honestly, asking me to do this.
For sure. The kind of randomness of you joining the Chariot, of, you know, like Josh seeing you all play like one show and then like fairly soon after that to be like asked to be a part of the Chariot, is similar to what we've heard from other members that were in the Chariot. Of it seemed very random of how, or maybe not even random, spontaneous it was that somebody would join the Chariot. Like, I remember here, and I don't remember what episode, maybe it was with like Wolf or whoever it was, but we heard that again, and I remember thinking to myself, Cullen and I, we saw you guys in Fargo. We helped you guys load up because we just got there really early. And I'm thinking to myself, that could have been very well the reason why we could have joined the Chariot. Like, it literally, truly is as spontaneous and random as that. That we just showed up to a show early and helped you all guys out. Like, it really could have been that random that next thing we know, like, now we're in the Chariot. Like, that's how random it seems like so many people that joined the Chariot became part of the Chariot.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories. We always called it a revolving door of guitarists. And I'm thinking of this one story with Dan Vokey. Did y'all meet Dan Vokey? He was on Wars and Rumors of Wars.
Yeah. We have not.
We haven't interviewed him.
Okay.
We haven't interviewed him, and I don't think he wasn't at either of the shows that we went to, right?
No,
he
was
would
not.
have been out of the band by them. So yeah, we obviously we know of Dan.
Yeah, he was
the one from Canada, right?
Yeah, and he was in a band called, was it I Hate Sally? Does my memory serve me right?
I believe so. That's pretty close, if that's not quite the name.
This is where my encyclopedia knowledge ends for the Chariot.
Yeah, he was from Canada, and that's where I was going with it.
I Hate Sally. You got it.
There we go. So we were on tour, and we were crossing over from the state side to the Canadian side. And I think he got flagged.
Oh, we've heard this before.
Okay,
Yeah, for sure.
He got flagged, and he didn't have a renewal of his work visa for the U.S. He didn't come back with us. Like, just straight, long story short, didn't come back with us. I think we had to get, was it Tyler from A Plea for Purging to finish out the last couple shows with us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tyler? Is it Tyler?
Yeah.
Fact check me on that one too.
Skinnier guy, right? I'm pretty sure. Can't remember his last name.
He was playing guitar at the time.
Yeah, he was playing their second guitar at the time. He left the band shortly after that, though. Yeah, go ahead.
I believe so. But yeah, he left, and then I think that's when Stevis came on board. After Dan Vokey couldn't get back in the States.
Yeah. Yeah, that I remember Steve was telling us, like, that's how it all
was one of those things where it was just constant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one of many stories.
Well, it's interesting because I think Mason and I would both say that, there was a revolving door of guitarists, and they were all great in their own way. I mean, they all brought their own musicality. But I think Mason and I would argue that you, in a lot of ways, are kind of the heart of it all. You brought a different kind of energy.
Like outside of Josh?
Outside of Josh, yeah, obviously. I mean, I'm talking musically. You brought a different kind of energy, and you had a stage performance or a performative part about you that was a little bit more unique than I think any other drummer that I've ever seen live, at least. And you had you have this really cool, like, nuanced style that it's irreplicable in anything I've ever heard. And I've heard Mason say that exact same thing before in the past too. I don't know if Mason, if you have anything else to add to that, but
well, maybe to underscore that, one of the videos, like if there's somebody who I know remotely is interested in heavy music, one of the things I will often share with them is the Warped Tour video of just you playing drums. And and whether that person knows drums or not, I'm just like, isn't this kind of nuts that somebody can just play this? Because every 5 seconds it seems like there's a different time signature. That seems a little nuts to you, right? And anyway, that to me is underscores that video to me underscores how incredible of a drummer you are, and it it's this band that ends up after 10 years fizzling out or whatever, and it's just I'm like, you are such a talented drummer, and anyway. There's lots to be said about that, but anyway.
Well, I'm flattered. Yeah. I appreciate that, guys, and I don't know where it came. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it comes from. Honestly, I mean, I had a lot of influences growing up, but who knows where your style comes from, right? Yeah. And I don't have really any musical background, much less in my family. I was the first one to do anything musical in my immediate family. So, yeah, it's kind of wild. I ended up
probably why you can do it that way. It's probably, I mean, you didn't have any, any
I didn't put anything in a box. Yeah, exactly.
There's no structure to it. So you just were able to be free and completely open with how you express yourself on a drum kit. That's pretty cool, man. Yeah.
I love that. Let's talk about some of those recordings. So you mentioned, you joined the Chariot. And pretty much immediately after, you're starting to record Wars, right?
That's right. I think we did one show. So I will start with this. The first show I did was with, I think I Am Terrified played.
Oh, hell yeah.
I want to say it was somewhere in North Carolina. It was just a festival, a bunch of bands that maybe, I can't remember who all was on it. But the reason why, that's a core memory of mine. One, because it's the first show I played with the Chariot. Two, because I was so nervous. I had so much to prove, right? Mm-hmm. You had Jake Ryan before me, all the Keller, Beiser, all those guys, they were so well known as being part of the Chariot before I step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And so I was super nervous. And the night before, we were practicing at the 7 venue. That's where we practiced, by the way, the 7 venue. So to see Josh, you had to stay past, midnight, because he was probably waiting for everyone to leave to go practice with the Chariot. Yeah. But so we were learning all these songs we didn't write, and you're familiar with those rock boxes or ego risers, as they call it. And these ones, they have the plexiglass on top, super heavy, beefy, and they have the lights going through them. And we, for whatever reason, we had to move a few of them off the stage. And the 7 venue stage was super high, like shoulder height. And we were pulling it off the stage, I think. I don't remember who it was, Brian and me, or maybe Wolf. And we tipped it on accident. and the plexiglass fell out, and it's plexiglass that's like, 3/4 inch thick or more, and it went directly on my big toe.
Oh, shit.
And it immediately swelled up. I could barely walk. I mean, I should have been on crutches at that point. So,
kick foot?
thankfully not. It was my left foot.
Jeez.
Even though I'm left-handed, I actually play right-handed. And so thankfully it was my hi-hat foot, so I could get away with it. I wasn't doing a lot of double bass at that point, obviously. But man, I could only imagine these new guys walk up on stage. One of them basically has his foot wrapped in toilet paper, and probably looked nervous and out of place. And yeah, that was a rough start with the Chariot. Got off on the right foot. On the wrong foot, obviously, and got off on the right foot. My left foot was effed up, is what I was trying to say. Then we went straight to a tour in Norway.
God dang.
Yeah.
What a wild
right out the gate. This is 2008. I'm 18 years old. I drop out of high school, play a show, and then immediately go, get my passport and go to Norway. That was another core memory. I feel like I remember the beginning parts of my journey and the end, but we had a band come with us called the Satire.
Sure.
Okay.
And I think some of those guys are like tight with Cornerstone Festival. If y'all go way back, that's a deep cut.
Oh yeah,
deep cut. And then Benea Reach. Have y'all ever heard of Benea Reach?
No.
Look it up.
Okay.
Earmark this in the podcast and go look them up. I doubt they're a band anymore because I think they broke up soon after. But if they're still doing stuff, that's great. But they were from Norway, Norwegian band, metalcore, super sick. That was a great tour to kick everything off on. And then, we went straight into writing new songs for Wars and Rumors of Wars. And the first song that Rusty, Brian Taylor, and I wrote together was Daggers.
That was the first one you guys wrote together.
And he does...
Wow.
All right, Mason. He actually does the vocals. He does the intro vocals.
Okay.
Take it all back, take it all back. That's Brian.
Interesting. Okay.
I remember him saying that when we talked to him too.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's wild.
And we recorded a video for that song with Daniel Davison.
How does that feel?
Yeah.
How does that feel to be like, okay, you were, again, like you're what, 18, 19 at this point. It's got to be one of the first songs that you write. And that ends up being a song that becomes a single for this really great band. Like that's gotta be kind of cool for you, right?
Yeah. My ego went up after that. Ego riser just screwed up my toe, killed my ego. It was really cool to feel like, because you never know. We could have walked in there and Josh is like, "Here are the songs, just learn them," right?
Right. Totally.
The new songs. But he was like, "No, I want y'all to." He literally told us, and this is the beauty of of a front man like Josh Goggin, is he was like, I don't want to be the face of the band. I want 5 years from now for people to see David and Brian as the face of the Chariot, along with everyone else. So, that obviously meant a lot to the two of us just stepping into this cult. It was a crazy place to be in, being in your favorite band, now writing the band's next record since they've been on basically hiatus. So everybody was waiting for it. There was all this anticipation for Wars and Rumors of Wars. And I feel like we nailed it. Dan Vokey's guitar on that, I mean, it was super dark, and he played some baritone on that guitar, on that record, which was really cool. He brought a lot of like the I Hate Sally roots, which really, you listen to them, you're going to say, oh, Converge. They sound a lot like Converge, and which is definitely a compliment. And so there were some awkward, it was a little awkward for me at the same time. Like, yeah, I think we nailed some of the writing, being new to the band and new faces to the, the scene, the hardcore scene. But it was still super awkward. Like, I remember learning some like syncopation stuff that Dan Vokey was trying to get me to do with his guitar riffs. And I was like, I've never played like this before. This is super weird for me. But we just sat there at the 7 venue, just going over the part over and over and over again until he was like, dude, it's like you were born to do this. And so I appreciate Dan Vokey and Josh were like father figures to me in that environment, because they were obviously a little older than Brian and I were, but yeah, I mean, they had so much experience with writing and touring and recording and all that good stuff. So we learned a ton. I mean, again, we were just local band boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you started laying down tracks, did you feel like you needed to change your drumming style to fit the Chariot more, or were you just like, I'm just going to be me, and whatever it is, maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't. We'll see how it goes, or like, did you have a certain thought process going into that?
Yeah, definitely on Wars and Rumors of Wars, because I was a little, I didn't want to take it a completely different direction. Right. I just didn't feel comfortable in my shoes at that point. So I did kind of for the first time put myself in a box creating music, but thankfully, I mean, naturally, Josh opens up that box as you go through the writing process. So we learned a lot, but there are definitely songs on the record where I'm like, I remember recording that and just feeling so out of place recording that part. We really locked in with Long Live.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, speaking of Long Live, let's talk about that then too. I think I know Cullen is one of these people. Long Live, for a lot of people, a lot of Chariot folks, is the kind of magna opus of the Chariot. And so, yeah, I'm just curious for you, obviously in the David De La Ho's video, like, does, its thing, and like, what does that moment of like recording that video and recording that album, what does that like moment mean for you, knowing that by that point you would have been in the Chariot for what, 3 years at that point, close to that?
Yeah, 2.5 years
like
maybe.
So,
yeah,
2.5 years. So yeah, like at that moment, I'm sure you were more comfortable. It sounds like by that point you probably felt a little bit more like, okay, I'm gonna like introduce kind of my own style a little bit more to this album. But yeah, I'm just curious, what was that process for you for Long Live?
Yeah, Long Live was definitely the most fun I've ever had recording a record. I mean, we brought out all the tricks on that record. But yeah, I mean, the second time you do anything is going to be 100% better sometimes than the first time you did it. But I don't know, it just felt like a family at that point. So we were obviously, we had friends in the studio with us recording David De La Ho's, and Matt Goldman played drums with me during that recording, which was really cool. Obviously, second time working with him at that point. And you got The City on the record. We had a bunch of friends come and do the group
like
vocals
kind of a gang vocal
on that. Yeah, gang vocal. Yeah. So it really felt like we had, well, first of all, it felt like we had 100 people in the studio at all times for that record. But there were so many elements. We just, everything we had talked about doing, in the last 2 years, like, let's think outside the box, even for the Chariot. And we pulled out all the stops on that record, whether it was using, xylophone or vibraphone, or chimes or a harpist, or I think, was it,
you have a song that's basically in reverse on that album?
Yes, halfway through it reverses back and you hear my stick clicks, like, and then the intro clip is in reverse at the beginning of the song, and then you actually hear what the dude says at the end of the song. I mean, all that kind of stuff were just ideas we had while we're driving down the road to the next show. So yeah, I mean, I feel like we got to sort of strip the boundaries or expand the boundaries of what the Chariot could actually do with the songwriting process on that. I'm trying to remember specifics. At that point, Brian is no longer in the band, and Stevis is recording, as well as John Terry.
Yeah, John came back.
Intro John Terry.
Love
Again.
John Terry.
So that was really cool because I knew him, back when they recorded The Fiancé.
Right.
So and those songs came out, and I remember thinking, man, this dude probably one of the best guitarists I've ever seen play, because he played a few shows with us.
It's so easy for him.
Yeah. Flawless at, that style of playing. And I wish I knew the vernacular for guitar a little better so I could, paint this beautiful picture of how he plays guitar. But so that was really special to have him come in. Obviously, a bummer, life happens. Brian left the band, no hard feelings, but to have John Terry come in, Stevis for the first time as well, recording with us, was really cool. So I don't know. Yeah, somehow I felt like I was in lockstep, maybe with Josh a little more, but I think right out the gate, I worked well with those two new guitarists with. Yeah.
Well, and who can't get along with both John and Stevis, especially Stevis? I mean, that guy, he seems like a riot to just hang with.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
He's
and
awesome.
and we haven't even talked about Wolf. I mean, geez, that guy's a philosopher and a poet and
also probably one of the funnest hangs.
An esoteric thinker. I mean, he's all over the board. It's fun stuff. I got to imagine
he'll have people drink
his.
He'll have people drink his sweat.
Sweat. Yep. Oh gosh, man. That was a memory I tried to shake, but you just brought it right back for me.
Are you feeling it right here, right now? Like, right?
Well, I guess I shouldn't complain. I was just there watching while Brandon Henderson just took a shot of it.
One of my favorite stories from this podcast, and we hear a lot of ridiculous stuff, but one of my favorites was Wolf telling us one time and maybe this was before you were in the Chariot, but he was telling us about this one time where he was in the van, it was super late at night, y'all are sleeping, and he gets like super thirsty in the middle of the night. And he like leans over, finds the first thing that felt like a water bottle on the ground of the van, picks it up, takes a swig, and he quickly realizes that's not water, and that's not Gatorade. It is somebody's excrement of potentially water or Gatorade. Yeah. And he immediately spits it out. And I just think back, I'm like, this sounds like what I would imagine the Chariot is like every single day in that van.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We were known for filling up that trough, on the side of the 15-passenger van with just trash.
I would have, like, if you just opened that, did it like turn into like the Zabumafu like closet where just everything fell out?
Everything falls out. Yeah, and at some point it just became a thing. We pull up to the venue and just stumble out of the van with trash going everywhere. We picked it up, but yeah.
All right. Well, I know that this has always been like one of those like cliche questions that you ask band members like when they're touring and stuff like that. But what is for you the weirdest thing or the most memorable thing that happened in that van? What's the first thing that pops into your head?
I mean, yeah, so many things. So much life happened in that van, I will say. Okay, the first things that come to mind is I think Brandon actually brought this up with y'all recently, but the taking a dump in a brown paper bag. One time we realized there was a wasp's nest inside. Those vans, you can pull the cup holders out, and just the guts of the van are just right there next to you on the bench seat. And we were just missing cup holders, obviously. And I think the van had been sitting over the summer before our next tour, and sure enough, they had made a nest inside the van, and we just hear the buzzing. And that, I wish I could be a fly on the wall to see our reaction once we realized
I bet you would
it
have
was a
rather
wasp.
been a fly than a human being.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of dangerous to be driving down the highway and realizing that's a passenger in the van with you. Let's see, we set off fireworks.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, the wasp are not the thing that are most dangerous. It's the damn fireworks.
Yeah. So y'all have heard about that one.
Well, we've seen it. We've seen it on the.
That's right. It was recorded.
That web series.
Yeah.
Man, that was so good. That's actually what endeared the Chariot to Mason and I to, or us to, the Chariot first. Sorry.
Do y'all know about the meat plate?
The meat plate.
So somebody, the writer at the in the green room, a lot of times was just a plate of assorted meats, nice. And we're punk rock. We're in a punk rock band. We're not making a ton of money, so we take that with us.
Right.
And the only place to put it is either at our feet where all the trash is, or on the top dash of the van, right in between the window and the dash. And so it would sit there and bake in the sun, and we'd still eat that stuff.
Yeah, nice warm meat. I get it.
Yeah.
Just prosciutto getting extremely warm sounds so
I can see like the oils like eventually like kind of seeping out of that meat and then like going into the dash and seeping down. It's like you're not getting that smell out for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's. We needed to burn the van after that tour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad has an old Mustang that a mouse died in the AC vent or whatever.
Oh, I bet that just drives him nuts.
And he's removed the mouse. I mean, obviously he removed that mouse a long time ago, but like you can't remove that smell. So regardless of how many years it's been probably 40 years since that mouse died in there, but that smell is going to still be in there. So I can't imagine that prosciutto oil still being in that van.
So I just thought of another story.
All right.
This happened outside of our van, but the van is still a key part of the story. Okay. So we were playing Portland, I believe, and Stevis and I I think we're getting ready to play, and our clothes are probably in the back of the van in between the van and the trailer. So we open those doors and realize we smell something. And we look down, and where the trailer hitched to the ball, someone had stood up on it and took a dump right there on right there on the van. I guess they thought this is a perfect opportunity place to just take a private dump.
So like right onto the ball.
Yeah, I think it was,
edge.
I think it was the bumper where he put his feet. How can I paint the picture? So you got the van and you got the trailer.
Yeah.
And if I'm sitting this way, standing on the trailer fork, right?
Yeah.
Right before the ball.
Yeah.
That's where my feet are going, and then I'm holding on to something from the trailer, leaning over the rear bumper of the van, and just letting it loose.
I bet you that's actually a pretty comfy way to do it. But
yeah, it was ergonomical for the guy.
Yeah.
Or gal. Could have been a gal.
Was it a band playing a joke on you or something? Or
Could have been, but they never revealed it. They're playing someone's going to listen to this and say, I know who's
going to. Andy Atkins is going to be like, yeah, that's me, guys.
It was me all along. 15 years later.
It's funny because A Plea for Purging was the first band that came to my mind.
Yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, one of those guys for sure did it, without a doubt. They like, if anybody's gonna be like, oh, that's the Chariots fan, I'm gonna take a shit right on their.
I would love to know.
Yeah,
I hope that comes to light.
All right. Well, speaking of trailer hitch shits, let's talk about One Wing, which is the reason why I bring up trailer shits, but it's literally the opposite of that. Let's be honest. So, One Wing might be.
That was the weirdest transition in the history of this
You know what?
podcast.
I'm a white guy. I like my segues.
That was something.
I think One Wing might be for sure a top 3 album of all time for me, out of any album I've ever heard. I know Cullen definitely is more partial to Long Live than One Wing, but Cullen, I would imagine One Wing is probably
Love One Wing
second,
still.
maybe.
Yeah.
So, but One Wing for sure, top 3 favorite album of all time for me. So, what was that process like? I mean, you talked a little bit. This is interesting. You said you felt like Long Live pulled out all the stops. At least from a listener experience, it feels like One Wing was pulling out all the stops. So that's interesting. So I'd love to just hear your own processing or your thoughts or reflections on One Wing.
Well, not to go too far back to Long Live, but maybe from a drummer's perspective, I felt like we really got to do a lot of cool things drumming wise on Long Live. We did a lot of overdub stuff or layering of drums on Long Live. So for me, that was super special. For One Wing, you're totally right. I mean, the Charlie Chaplin one, Cheek.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that song to me still gives me chills when I listen to it.
What was that officially? My perception of that was the last recorded song of the Chariot. Like that was the last one you guys ever recorded. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Because it seems like with Josh crying at the end, and again, who knows the spec? And I don't know if I've ever asked this before from a Chariot person that was on that album. It seems like as if Josh knew that was the last song that would ever be recorded. Like I know it was a year after that before you got all announced, and from hearing the nature of the announcement, it didn't seem as if you all knew that going into that album that they would be the last album. But it just seems like with Josh crying at the end, it almost seemed like he knew, and I could be wrong, but it just seemed like that.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could have been. We didn't know. I mean, I was just getting started in my mind, but very well. And what a great song to end with, in my opinion.
But then you also have a spaghetti western song.
That one was. I love playing that song live. That one was so much fun to play live.
It was so much fun to be in a crowd especially when Dan was with you guys playing the trumpet.
Yes,
that was so cool because I wasn't expecting it, and I don't think Mason was either. When we saw it, it was great. Yeah. You guys are bringing back a lot of memories of, especially that One Wing tour or the final tour we did.
Yeah,
we did Warped Tour that year as well.
Yeah,
I'm remembering. Yep.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it just felt like that album was a sort of like pulling out. Kind of again, and I know that Josh was for sure like the kind of creative directive of the Chariot in a lot of ways, but it just felt like he was just like pulling out like, all right, what can I wring out of this rag right now that there's left, and it seemed like One Wing was that. It just seemed like every little last drop he could get out of that wet rag, that's what he was getting out of it.
Well said. I mean, that's totally true, and I think we talked about this earlier on, but Brian came back and did those vocals at the end of Not. One of the guys that I actually, he's in the Threats with us, Travis Sadler, he plays bass. Yeah. He played the piano on Speak.
Oh, that was him. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So, again, it's like having family. We always used our best friends to come in and help us create what we were doing. Yeah. I think that might be the record where we had some xylophone now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to listen to all these songs with you guys. I bet that would be a blast.
That would be a blast.
Oh, we should do. That's actually I never even thought about.
We should do like a
live
someday.
Album listening with members from the band.
Well, that's
a great episode idea, Cullen.
Did that come out 2000?
That was 2012.
12. Okay. Yeah. So we would. I wonder if we could do it at the 20-year, 15-year. 15-year.
I don't even. Who knows what we can do 15-year. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's actually.
I like the idea of doing a listening party many years later.
But with a member from
With
the
a
band
member,
that was
yeah.
in that album. That's sick. I didn't even thought about that. That's cool.
We'll have to edit that
We should
part
do
out,
it.
but we'll.
Anyway.
Sorry. That's
But we loved paying homage to other artists, right?
Yeah.
Or other songs that I think we actually brought back a clip, like a radio jingle clip that said Atlanta, Atlanta.
Yeah.
We brought that back on that record. It was on Long Live.
Yes.
So we
Well, and
loved
then you
doing-
even played homage to the Chariot from the very first album with the there was the before there was Atlanta guitar riff that. Well, no, wait, sorry, that was from that was on Long Live, but like you guys even did that even. So it's just like there is this level of like paying homage to either other artists or even the Chariot themselves.
Here's the coolest paying of homage that I've ever seen, and it was a Chariot. It was the Chariot doing it. When Mason and I saw you in Minneapolis on your farewell tour, it was the day that Lou Reed died. Josh just so happened to be wearing a Lou Reed shirt that day. Like, coincidence.
Yeah.
And you guys played like part of Walk on the Wild Side. Just to start off the show, or not start off the show, but it was like somewhere in the middle of the show. And talk about paying homage, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you see it in our merch too, a lot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Dr. Seuss.
Dr. Seuss. Yeah. One fish, two fish.
That's right.
Yeah. So that album, it's so well crafted. It's perfectly ended. It's just everything about, like the sequencing of it. This is the other thing like I love about. I think what like takes a really good album for me is just the sequencing. It is if you're able to track by track, it seems like the songs are just placed in the right order. That really will set like an album apart for me. And every Chariot album is like that, but One Wing especially kind of solidified that for me.
Yeah, Josh was really good. I mean, I got to give him credit where credit's due. I mean, he really knew how to put together an album. And, you know, I don't know if you all know this, but he refused to do any more than 10 songs.
Yep.
Which a lot of the records I was into, 12 songs was the standard. Yeah. But I'm a fan of it. You know, now I only want to do like 5 or 6 songs and move on to the next thing, but
yeah, or never play or never record something again with that band.
Oh well, yeah. Oh gosh.
One question that, and I feel like I've definitely asked this with some of the other folks from the Chariot, is clearly you have an admiration of Josh as Cullen and I do. You know, we've definitely seen like some things around like Josh. I think probably creatively is at times maybe difficult to work with, and I'm just curious like what. Knowing that like you came into being a part of the Chariot as a fan, and then obviously we're working with him for 3 or 4 or 5 years, what was that experience like in terms of just your relationship? Like, was he somebody that you even were like, oh my God, like I can totally see like why you are the way you are, you're amazing? Or was it something where it was like, okay, like there's definitely difficult parts of you, but there's also these other parts. I would imagine like it's probably like any kind of relationship where you know, like even in a marriage, like you might love somebody, but you also are like, oh, there's some probably parts of you that like a little difficult to work with. But anyway, I'm just curious like what that relationship with Josh has been like for you, knowing that, again, like Josh is somebody that both Cullen and I admire, and a lot of other people really are like, God, he is just next level. You know, I was one of those people that was on stage at Furnace Fest screaming along with Josh recently. So, you know, Cullen and I are one of those kind of people. We love Josh. You know, there's nothing you could say that, but I'm just curious, like, knowing that there's probably some people there like, he's kind of difficult to work with at times too.
Yeah, I mean, personalities, man, it can be a bitch sometimes, but sure. I felt a kinship with Josh. I think I said that earlier. I mean, he was sort of a father figure showing me the ropes. Before the Chariot, I'd never toured in a band outside of playing a few Weekend Warrior stuff things in like Florida. You know, I'm from Atlanta, so we go down to Florida and play a few shows, but that doesn't mean you're experienced at that point. So I think I leaned on him. As you know, my dad and I didn't speak for most of the time. So yeah, I felt this kinship with Josh, and some of my best friends, I know exactly, and I'm not afraid to say, yeah, we butt heads on these issues and these topics. Same thing with Josh. I mean, we're going to butt heads on things. I remember one time on tour, we realized there was something wrong with our tire on the van, and we needed to go get it checked out or fixed. And at some point that morning, I was trying to find, a Tractor Supply, anything that could help us fix whatever the issue was. And I spent a couple hours like trying to track down what can we do? Because a lot of times you just don't have resources at your disposal on tour. And then all of a sudden, Josh goes, "Hey, we're going to have to deal with this tomorrow. We've got to go to a show." And I flipped out. I was like, I'm trying to help. I was so close to finding the solution to it, and we butted heads. And I've seen it happen on tour where just something small and petty like that ruins the relationship. So I was like, you know what? I've got to nip this in the bud right now. So later that day, Josh and I were really good at saying, okay, we had some time to cool off. We're going to talk about this. We're going to hash it out. We're going to shake hands, hug each other, hug it out, and then move on with our lives. And actually, that to me is why I was able to, not to get super, super deep, but that was sort of what primed me to mend my relationship with my dad later, is I knew that I could either let this sit with me for the rest of my life, or I could shake it out with my dad.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's really cool.
That was my experience.
Yeah. I love that.
Do you feel like that was? Do you think that you would have done it if that you would have mended your relationship with your dad if you didn't have that relationship with Josh or the other guys in the band?
I think so. I think it's my personality. Yeah.
You seem like a very even keel guy. You seem like a very even keel guy. That
maybe it would have happened differently or sooner or later. But
you seem like a very even keel
those were
guy.
my formative years in a lot of ways. And they say the youth is wasted on the young. Well, yeah, I literally got to live out my dream at age 18 to 24 or whatever it was. So yeah.
That's an interesting, I sort of get that in a way, because like right when I graduated college, I got offered this like opportunity where at the time I felt like, God, this is like the dream opportunity. Like I can't imagine it getting any better than this. Like knowing, looking back now, and it's been 12 years since the Chariot broke up, and it's probably been closer to 15, 16 years since you were a part of the Chariot, or when you first started the Chariot. So it's been like over or nearly half your life probably. What like looking back now, does it feel still like, okay, this was the dream and I did it for like 4 or 5 years, and now I'm just like now trying to figure out how I can like move past and figure out another dream? Or is it now like, are you in a place where it feels like, oh, like I have other dreams that I am aspiring towards, and I'm not having to like look back like Uncle Rico to like, oh,
yeah,
if I could
This
just go
sounds
back
like
to
a
2000.
Napoleon
Awesome.
Dynamite, right?
Yeah, I'm just curious what and when you think, like, I'm sure you're obviously super proud of the Chariot, but like it can't be like at this point, it can't be like the like, oh, that's my dream to do that again.
Yeah. Well, it's like every musician, you get the itch after a few years of not. You get the itch. That's when I started the threats. Yeah, I mean it's. I think I said this earlier on in the podcast, but It's hard to open this box of the Chariot.
Yeah.
Because I can't. It's never going to be the same. No matter how much I love the new music I'm creating, it's never going to be the Chariot.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I feel like the Threats is the most likely and most wise successor to the Chariot. There's been a lot of bands that Mason and I like that have some similarities, but the Threats is the closest thing that I've heard that gets kind of at that heart and soul of it.
Well, it helps when you have three former band members from the Chariot.
Certainly, and I think that's a big part of it. But I know that Brian had some vocal issues and things like that have come up. Is there any chance that we're going to see more Threats? Because it's truly one of my favorite Group of Five songs from any band.
It very well. It's like for sure top 5 EP of all time for me.
Yeah, same here.
Wow.
I still have I still wear my Threats shirt all the time.
That's awesome. So did y'all come to a show? Man, I hope.
We never got to see a show, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we didn't play very many shows, but 100% you will hear more from the Threats.
Great.
No doubt.
Good.
And probably this year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good to know.
All right. Well, that is great to know. So we got to keep your number handy is what you're saying.
Please do. Yeah, call me anytime. But
Brian's coming back as well?
Brian will be back. Yeah.
And then
He and I wrote...
Is it Taylor playing bass? Sorry. What's his name?
Travis Sadler. Yeah. And John Terry. Yep.
Johnny boy. Yeah, we gotta get you guys back on because we want to talk the Threats. We want to blow it up. Like, we are such big fans.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So what happened was we released that EP in 2018, and then we rode that out for a while. Then I think in 2019 we started writing some new tracks for another record, and then COVID hit and it just delayed everything.
Well, and then like Brian also really messed up his voice too.
Messed up his voice, yeah. That had a lot to do with it as well. That's exactly right. I mean, he had vocal polyps, and once you have those, it's like dislocating your arm. You're always going to be at risk of doing it even more easily the next time.
Right.
So we have to be careful still today. I mean, he's comfortable. He obviously does vocals for other projects just fine, but we have to be careful this time around. It will be heavy. It's going to be a heavy record. Whether or not he's screaming as much is a different story, but the songs we're writing are punk, they're fast, they're heavy.
Hell yeah. So you need to jump on the vocals too, is what you're saying. Maybe
so. Fact check me on that first, because maybe I didn't do any vocals with the Chariot. I'll have to...
Well, you had to have on I don't know, maybe like The City, right?
See, I'm tone deaf, so I didn't want to be part of anything that required. Yeah, there was a little bit of melody in there.
Barely, yeah. But I get what you mean.
Yeah, that just wasn't my thing. I'll do a yell or a scream every once in a while, but no. Okay. I don't want to hear my voice. Just like I told y'all, I don't like to hear my voice recorded. So,
well, I guess we only have 2 listeners that will listen to this episode. That's okay. Well, David, we're just again very indebted to the Chariot. You've been, whether you knew it or not, you've been a part of our lives for many, many years, and we're just really, really thankful for you to be a part of this. But let's get into your top 5 most influential albums.
Oh, gosh.
I know you have maybe slightly prepared for this.
Yeah.
So let's hear these top 5 most influential albums. So the albums that maybe shaped you as a person, as a musician, shaped you in your life, however you want to think about it. But yeah, top 5 most influential albums in David Kennedy's life.
All right. Oh, was that the intro?
That's the intro.
Kicking it off.
Great.
Okay. Oh, so this one was a no-brainer. At the Drive-In, Relationship of Command.
We hear this a lot. That's great.
Oh yes.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that album so much.
Yeah. I mean, the Latin roots, the drum syncopation, all that stuff, it blew my mind the first time I heard it. That had to have been one of the, like, obviously I listened to Zayo as the first heavy band in the scene, but Zayo's kind of an acquired taste in my mind relative to when you hear At the Drive-In, it's like top 40s for a scene kid.
Acceptable.
Like it's beautiful, the vocals and the way the drums. That's what really inspired me from that album is the way the drums work with the vocals.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me obviously forever. That's my thing is I want the drums to emphasize or work with the vocals. So the way they did that record.
I love that album. It's probably a top 50 album for me of all time. One of my favorite fun facts is an At the Drive-In fact, and that is, and maybe you know this, David, but they played a festival in Australia one year during kind of the height of their career, and it was kind of one of those things where like super popular artists were like, I have to watch that At the Drive-In. Have to watch that at the Drive-In. And they played this show and they destroy the stage. You know, it's just typical At the Drive-In kind of style.
Yeah.
The stage that they totally destroyed at this festival was owned by none other than
Guess.
the Wiggles.
Oh, come on. I wanted him to guess. That would have been fun.
I would have never guessed that. That's
The
amazing.
Wiggles. The Wiggles. That's who owned that
Australia's
stage
finest.
in Australia. So, anyway, when I think of At the Drive-In, I just think of them destroying the Wiggles stage.
That's amazing. That is a great fact. I'm going to carry that with me.
We talked to somebody, I can't remember who it was, one of the dudes from North Lane, I think, and they said that the Wiggles actually own tons of stages and venues around.
Oh, that was the guy from North Lane, wasn't it?
Yeah. Anyways, just imagine the Wiggles.
They probably own
supporters
the
of the
entire
scene.
Australian music industry.
Yeah.
They're just like they're the capitalists of like the music capitalists of Australia.
They're the Mickey Mouse
the
of the
tycoons.
Australian music scene. That's
All right, so that's number one. Let's hear.
Okay.
Let's hear
Yep.
more.
Oh, gosh. Converge. You failed me.
yeah.
Oh, you fail me. That's
Yeah,
a
I know.
good
You
pick,
thought I was going to say Jane Doe, weren't you?
right? That's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay.
So the reason is because when that came out, when did that come out? Early 2000s. 2000.
3, 4?
That one was 3, maybe. That was the one right after Jane Doe, I think, right?
I believe so.
Jane Doe was 2001. I bet it was like 3 or 4. I bet
we
it's 3
should
or
look
4.
it up.
So that makes sense because that's when I was starting to buy CDs, a lot of CDs. And
2004.
I thought so. Yeah.
I guarantee you I went to Hot Topic or FYE or Fry's or wherever, and it was just the first Converge album I saw. And so I bought it, and man, that hand with the like drippy blood stuff coming out of it, what a good album cover. That's as heavy as it gets.
I mean, that's what they're known for. I mean, that's just like that they are so iconic in the Jacob Bannon is just next level in terms of artwork and aesthetic of that band.
Yeah. But the drums on that record, I mean, it taught me.
That snare sound is so cool.
Yeah.
I think.
He fits so many drum hits in just like one measure of a song. I couldn't believe it. That record changed my life for sure. And then
They almost like make he, or at least him in particular, he almost makes his music seem like he's just trying to work out that happens to be rhythmic enough where it turns into a song. But it really does seem like he's going so fast that it's like this has got to be like a CrossFit workout or something for him.
Yeah, what is that? The song titles are coming back to me, but Eagles Become Vultures. That song, I think it's like it's one of the shortest songs on the record, and man, it hits so hard. And the way the breakdown at the end, one of my favorite songs, I think.
Crushes.
It's a great pick.
Oh gosh, again, credit where credit's due. I'm sure this comes up a lot. Oh God, the Aftermath.
Hell yeah.
By Norma
That's
Jean.
my favorite.
Again, another record that I was like prime time when I wanted to buy CDs. I probably had when that came out, my learner's permit, but I still had, for whatever reason, had to hand my dad a note that said Norma Jean, Oh God, the Aftermath, go pick it up opening day. He probably had to go to Hot Topic or something on the way home from work. But I was like, Dad, you have to get this record for me so that when I get home from school, I can pop it in my stereo and just headbang forever.
Imagine a dad going into Hot Topic and picking up "Oh God, the Aftermath." That would be great.
Not your dad.
My dad, not your dad either. Also,
I thought you were talking about. Yeah, we were still talking at that point, but that Band Network, the two kick drum hits.
Yeah.
Right in. And then the video for it, I love. Man, I'm a sucker for videos that just show the band playing. I know that's not, most people like the concept, a storyline, but I love quick cuts, the shaky frames, they made random shots coming up.
All of those music videos were scary.
Yeah.
They were legitimately scary. They almost tried to do some sort of horror genre with those music videos. It was really well done.
Well, it reminded me of, was it Face on Bless the Martyr?
Sort of horror genre.
Yeah.
That had a video that I would
had
watch.
A cigarette
Yeah. God, that video ripped.
It had four fast forward and then fast reverse, kind of motion, stop motion almost kind of stuff. There was a cigarette that would burn, and then it would be a full cigarette again, and then a guy doing a crab walk for some reason.
Yeah, music videos, man. They don't make them like they used to. I love. What was that? Another one I would watch literally every single day. I'd pull it up right before I got on MySpace or whatever the program was for revealing
Were
my
you a Bebo user?
woes. Say it again.
Were you a Bebo user?
No, I wasn't.
Oh,
I don't think so. It sounds familiar, but MySpace was the thing I used.
MySpace, yeah.
But anyways, I think if you went to Every Time I Die website, the landing page was the video for Logic of Crocodiles.
Yeah.
And I wish it was still up because it was like a yellow background, that you create in PowerPoint, and then the Logic of Crocodiles. And that's just live. The only thing better than just recording a band playing is the live footage of the band playing put to the song.
Yeah.
And man, I'm a sucker for that kind of thing.
Super high
Loved
energy.
it.
Love
Yeah.
Love that.
I don't think we have ever gotten "Oh God" as a top 5.
I wouldn't. I mean,
I don't think we have. I'm almost
I feel
certain
like it's
of
got
it
to be
because
mentioned at least once.
I don't think we have.
I mean,
that is my. I think that's the best Norma Jean record.
I mean, Redeemer is probably the one I listen to the most, but you guys asked for what was the most influential.
Yeah.
And it's definitely "Oh God, the Aftermath."
That's fair. That's fair.
Then,
All right, so is that 3 or 4?
That's 3. Converge, At the Drive-In, Norma Jean, Fear Before the March of Flames, The Always Open Mouth.
Okay.
So that record came out when I was in that band, The Rain, with Brian Taylor and Travis Sadler, and so that's where he comes back into play. Travis Sadler was in that band as well, and that's where we got our sort of experimental thing going on. All the drum machines they used on that record, and the vocoding, the vocal stuff they did, really changed the game for us creatively.
Oh yeah.
Expanded those boundaries for us, and you'll hear that a lot on the threat stuff.
Nice.
So, Fear Before the March of Flames, Always Open Mouth. That's a long record. I think there's 16 tracks on it. Speaking of long records,
it's 2.5 Chariot albums.
Yeah, I know. Definitely time-wise, for sure.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
And then, man, it's a toss-up between Beloved's album and which was what? Failure On.
Yeah.
and You Come Before You by Poison the Well.
Don't choose wrong.
We have got that one a lot. You better pick the right one though. There is.
I'm gonna go with Beloved.
Oh, you are a man after my own heart. I love it.
Yeah, I mean that record came out. So this is a good story about tying in the Chariot with Beloved. Remember, it was somewhere in Georgia, the Southeast. I don't know if it was a Furnace Fest thing or a Cornerstone did a Southeastern thing. I actually asked Josh, like, do you remember this show? And we couldn't figure out which festival it was, but it was somewhere close to where I lived because I wasn't traveling a lot at that time before, when I was young, to go to shows. And Beloved played on a baseball field. And the hardcore dancing was so intense because we're kicking up dust everywhere. We called him Joe Beloved, the drummer. He was wearing a bandana over his face, and it was just so fitting. Seeing all these guys with bandanas on their face, it made sense to wear. Hardcore dancing, the bandana over your face was a thing, but it made sense on a baseball field. Well, Norma Jean was supposed to play that show. They got a flat tire, and I went up to the merch booth, and there was this sign that said the Chariot, and I had never heard of the Chariot. And I said, hey, gosh, they probably hated this, but I was like, hey, I'm trying to see if Norma Jean's going to be here. And they were like, well, Norma Jean's not going to be here, but Josh Goggin is going to be here with a band called The Chariot. And he played the show. It was him and one other dude. It might have been Brian Gray from the Satire playing drums. And it was the wildest thing ever. I mean, I don't even know. This is a deep cut because it was probably, I don't even know if we would recognize the songs he was playing.
Yeah, it's like a precursor to 68. If it's just a two-piece.
Yeah. And Brian Gray had the drummer. If it was Brian Gray, if my memory serves me right, fact check me, whoever's back there. But he had a second kick drum that was a cat scratch post, and he rigged it. He rigged it with some sort of microphone or Roland trigger, and it was making some weird noise when he would hit it. But yeah, that was a wild.
Is that?
Yeah.
That is wild.
Maybe I'm making all this up. It sounds made up.
A cat scratch? How would you even do that?
The South. I feel like the South doesn't exist sometimes. Like, I feel like it's just a mythical.
It's bizarre place to be.
It is. Like, isn't it the land of enchantment? Isn't that Alabama? Land of enchantment.
I don't know.
But like the more I hear about the South, I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense why you all like figured out moonshine at some point, because it's just like
100%.
At some point, y'all are going to figure out some way to get what you want out of something, even if it means that you're not going to have the right tools or right materials for getting that right outcome. You'll figure it out one way or another.
Yeah, we can be resourceful for sure.
Or even the experience. That's probably the more important part. We'll send this kid to Norway. He's played a few times.
He'll figure it out.
I love it.
Well, David, that's actually kind of an unbelievable list. Given it, obviously you can hear so much of like your own drumming from these albums. So it makes a lot of sense. So I'm just like, dang, like we listen to a lot of the same heavy music, to be honest.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So
it really
I'm
is.
a big fan. What do you want to plug? So it sounds like maybe some new Threat stuff sometime this year. So yeah, what do you want to plug?
Yeah, that's a good plug. Definitely be on the lookout for some new Threat stuff. I need to hit up Brian and say, hey, we need to get this done.
Yeah.
Hold us accountable to that.
I can do that.
Who did the image, the imagery last time? Was that Brian?
Yeah. So Chris Stowe. He actually played in the rain with us at one stage. So a good friend of ours from high school.
He needs to get
still
rehired.
a good friend. He's very good. He's very good.
That was like the very first thing that Mason and I both were like, Okay, we're in. We're going to buy merch even before we have heard.
Speechless.
Yeah. For real.
Excellent.
Sorry, we lost you there.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You want to repeat that story quick?
What part was I at? What did I say?
We were talking about Stowe, and then you said something.
Oh, I said he needs to get rehired for sure. What Mason and I first said when we first saw any of the threat stuff was, with artwork like this, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he did a great
we
job.
bought a bunch of merch. So
Yeah. He was very professional too. We thought he was just gonna throw some stuff at us, but he had this whole like lookbook and mood board, and we picked a bunch. We actually have several of the Threats logos, and we picked our top 5 like favorites, and then went through a whole process to land on. I think we got the T with the lightning bolts through it as one of our logos, and then the Threats written out in sort of a old school Mothra feeling, or Ninja Turtles feeling, mixed with horror film kind of thing going on. But yeah, it was really fun. That was honestly what made developing that EP so much fun, outside of the music. Was just the artwork on it.
Yeah.
So
the whole aesthetic. I mean, the music videos, just the whole aesthetic was really great. It was really well done.
Thank you. Yeah, so expect more from the Threats this year. I've actually recorded a lot of the drums, so we're halfway there. When you get the drums recorded, the rest just follows through. And then I guess that's my plug. I'll leave my plug at that.
sounds good.
Look out for the Threats.
Love it.
Well, can I ask one more thing? Like, what have you been doing? Since the Chariot, what do you do for a living?
Yeah, well, okay, so I'm happily married for 9 years to my wife Emma.
That's right, ladies. Stay away.
And I've been working at an accounting firm. So all the way back to the beginning, I did finish my degree.
There we go.
It was an accounting degree after the Chariot. And that was the first thing I did. I went straight back to school, got my accounting degree, got a job at an accounting firm.
Gotta make that dad proud, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I did. I mean, it was obviously for me, but I did kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. And I'm happy to be where I'm at. I'll never look back. I mean, it's fun. Again, reminiscing on the Chariot, but I love my life. It's a great
I
life.
can't believe you actually had time. We're recording in mid-February right now. I can't believe, as an accountant, that you have time to talk about the Chariot.
Well, okay, so another plug. We do bookkeeping for nonprofits, which isn't. It's not the tax. It's not the tax stuff. So if you're a nonprofit,
okay. But still, I feel like bookkeeping. It's still kind of a little stressful time.
It's
of year,
busy,
though, right?
January's busy. I think that's why I told you, can we do this in February?
Sure.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself clacking away on the old, old school calculators and putting together some Chariot beats or Threats beats?
Just making beats while I'm, handling someone's finances. No, but I'll throw on those 5 records.
Yeah, I bet
mentioned.
time signature fractions make a little bit more sense now.
Totally. Yeah. I'm a math guy for sure.
They need to make a calculator drum pad. That'd be fun.
I'm sure they have it somewhere.
You probably
We're gonna
type
find
in
it.
53/7, and you're like, oh, like that was not. Anyway, David, what else would you like to plug?
Well, if you go on Netflix, you'll find me in an episode of a series. I want you guys to go find it. I am
Love is Blind?
No. I am in
Are
a
you
Netflix episode.
Oh my goodness, are you in the Jeffrey Dahmer series?
No, but we should talk about the rave, the venue in Milwaukee. Have you heard about?
No.
No. Is that one of the places he would go to?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
interesting.
it's a wild
Okay, but
venue.
what was okay? So you're not? Are you saying that you're not willing to share what episode or what the series?
I just want to make
that
it
you're on?
fun. Go see if you can find
But
me in a Netflix
okay, what is it
episode.
about that we could find you in?
Give us at least
It's-
a genre.
Comedy.
It's comedy.
Actually, okay, I'll narrow it even further. Stand-up comedy.
Stand-up.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nate Bargatze?
I'll let you guys
No,
find it.
you seem like a Joe Rogan fan. I can tell.
Total Joe Rogan dude right there. Okay. Wait,
All right,
so you're
okay.
like you physically are featured in it, or are you
No,
talked about in the stand-up, or like what's
No,
your feature?
you just
You're-
see me.
you're
You
front
just see
row.
me in the front row.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
so you're just watching.
Yeah.
So we just got to go watch a whole bunch of Netflix.
That wasn't really a plug. I just thought you wanted me to say
That's
something
no,
that.
no, like
yeah.
I mean, fair enough. I
Yeah.
mean, I get, especially if it's Joe Rogan, I can see why you're not wanting to disclose who it is. But I get it. There is a very famous video of me jamming out to a band that is slightly unknown in Fargo, North Dakota, in 2011, and you can see a very bald, shaved head Mason. And what were you having? Probably a mullet at that point.
I had a
Cullen.
mullet at the time. No, I did not have a mullet at the time. I was growing out the mullet again.
Okay, there you go. Well, if you want an equally important multimedia factor history, well, that's ours.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean that. I don't go on YouTube anymore, and search my name or the Chariot.
Well, I do that
I don't
pretty
wanna
much like
see
every
any of
other
that
week.
stuff.
So I'll for the lack that you're doing of that, I'm making up for that. I'll be honest.
Okay.
Mason is featured in a video that has like over 66 million views on it though. Like he's the
Oh
main
yeah,
point
yeah,
of the video.
and it's with the Chariot, or not the Chariot. It's with Norman Jean.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go look that one up.
Yeah.
Yeah, go look that one up. It went
not
super
on Netflix,
viral.
though.
It's not on YouTube though. It's not on YouTube.
It is on YouTube now. It's on YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, but where it went super viral is on Instagram.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
Cullen just put it up on YouTube just now.
I did. I
Yeah.
went click. Boop.
There you go. Well, David, again, thank you so much for chatting with us. Again, Chariot is such an important band for both Cullen and I, and so anytime that we can chat with anyone from the Chariot, just knowing like how important this band has been in our lives, it really means the world to us. So thanks so much for chatting with us about it, and again, we can't wait for new Threat stuff this year.
Thanks for having me. Can't wait to talk to you guys again.